high. They put a lot, one mill there will generate a lot of local dollars, since the state share is small. So the size of their pie is actually District B has very low property value. The state is making up a much larger share of their total program. Again, that total program for District A and B could be the same amount, but how it's funded. When you look at our district for 21-22, the current year we're in, we have high assessed values here, so our local share is higher than our state share. 5941, that increased a little bit as our assessed values have gone. So how did we get here? This is a multi-decade odyssey to get here. Multiple court orders, multiple court reviews, lawsuits. It starts in the 1990s with implementation of Taxpayer, I think in 1992. Taxpayer said you could debruce, which meant you could remove the revenue cap that Taxpayer implements on taxing districts. Warren Folk School District debruced in 1997, eliminated a revenue cap. Once you de-Taxpayer or debruce, you have permission from the voters to keep our local property tax mill levies at that level at the time you debruce. Without de-Taxpayering, districts' mills will continue to be. This shows the split between local, which is the white line, which was 57% in the late 1980s, and state, 43%. That has flipped and inverted as local districts have provided less and less funding for education. What this has done is it has put more of a burden on the state, and the state has not been able to meet that obligation. We'll get into a little bit of the reasons how they're managing that. But this is an attempt to correct, levy correction, to kind of correct and increase that local. So we've gone through a lot of stuff. I'm going to pause there. Before everybody totally glazes over. Does anybody have any questions as far? All right.
I could never understand this stuff. With debrucing, this does not give the state more funding or us more funding, like what you call the pie. It doesn't allow us to have a bigger pie or more per pupil funding. It's all just about like state versus local share of that pie.
Right. So in a state level, you mostly hear about it that we've exceeded the Taxpayer revenue cap. You're going to get a tax refund. Usually it comes in the form of lower tax. What debrucing does at a local level allows you to keep money beyond that revenue cap. So that revenue cap no longer applies. For us, we spend, our budgets to spend every dollar we get. That takes a lot of stuff.
But it does give us more money because with the correction, it's giving us more mills. Is that not correct?
Again, the size of our pie for the total program funding isn't changing. You have the same number of students and the same per pupil funding. How that pie is getting funded. There'll be more local dollars that make up that pie. Now we'll get into how the state is choosing to use the money it's freed up on their end.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. The state pie gets bigger and bigger, so potentially there's more funding for schools, for hospitals.
With this correction, that's
okay. That's where I'm getting to. Okay.
So when we debruced, our mills were like 33 and a half. But currently, in the year we're winding up 21.759, I think. So even though we debruced, our mills continue to decrease year after year. Herd interpretation continues. In 2007, it was becoming untenable. The state knew that this couldn't continue to happen, so they passed all that froze those total program mills in place. In 2007, our total program mill has been 21.759. It's been very easy to calculate our mills, our property taxes until this year. So again, how did we get here? The blue line is what actually happened. We de-Taxpayered, but our mills continue to go down. This is a generic school district. This is not ours. If we had followed the laws or now interpreting it, we would have had a flat mill. We would have stayed at 33.5. It's on County 7 credit New Hampshire Road of 2007. So what happened, what they're trying to correct here with this mill levy correction is the state couldn't meet their obligations. So they came up with the infamous BS factor, the budget stabilization factor, which basically is the budget plug for the state of Colorado. The state says we have K-12 obligations of $4 billion, we can only afford 3.5. But the BS factor is negative $500 million. That money comes out of the school districts. Collectively, I think it's somewhere around $8 billion that have helped the school districts since that went into effect in the Great Recession. And they're working to buy that down. It's always a good place. So we can buy that to buy that. So when Rob says, this might free up state money, one of the things that they do is buy down that BS factor. So the legislature has now taken steps to restore, going forward, the local share. As I said, our mills used to be 33 and a half, and now 21. This is a process that incrementally increased those mills back up to the lesser of where mills were in the first, which was 33 and a half. The number of mills that would take to fully fund our district locally, which is I think for us 58, or 27. So our goal is 27 mills per state line. So this is only a go-forward measure. This isn't seeking to collect any sort of money that we would have owed if this interpretation of the next 20 years ago. This is go-forward only. That was important. Some districts really thought they were going to come and try and retroactively tax us, and that's not what happened. That is not what's happening. So again, to reiterate, mill levy correction is a state law. And while the responsibility for setting the mill levies is with the local school board, the local school board must set the total program levy in accordance with state law. So we have to follow the law in setting the law is saying that we should increase our local mills. So how are we fixing this? The first was passage of House Bill 2014-18 in the spring of 2020. What that did is it set the target mill levy at the lowest of either fully funding district taxes locally. The mills in place at the time we Bruce, which is in a 33.5 or 27. It also issued temporary tax credits to completely offset. So if it was 27 for us, our target was 21, or our target was 27, our current mill is 21.759. We issued a credit for the difference. It's basically set the stage for what is happening. 81 out of 118 districts have target mills of 27 year old. This is also an opportunity that the state is taking to try and equalize. We have some districts, they tend to be wealthier districts who charge 2 or 3 mills, and other districts who charge 25 or 26, and there's just an inequity in what local taxpayers across the state are paying. An opportunity to equalize. Step 2, the certification of temporary tax credits, which the board did last year. So we certified 21.759, but that included a tax credit applied. So this is what we did last year. So the law said we should mill 27, but it also allowed us to issue a temporary tax credit of 5.241. What you saw in your property tax bill this year is what 21.7. That's what we're going to change this year, about 21. So this spring, House Bill 21-1164 was introduced, very similar to the law passed the year before, except that it mandates specifically that we have a plan to reach our target mills by increasing as quickly as possible, but by no more than 1 mill each property tax year beginning this year. We have to go from 21.759 to 27 at no more than a million. So for us, it will be 6 years of no more. So the language basically says it has to be in the last as quickly as possible, but no other ones. We can't go slower, we can't go faster. So this breaks out where we currently stand. Property tax 2020, taxes that we collected this year in 2021. Total program mills were 21.759. Target mills for the bill at the time was 27. We issued a tax credit of 5.2. The property tax 2021, which is what we're here to discuss tonight. That's the taxes folks will pay in 2022. Our credit goes down by 1, and our total program goes up by 1, 21.759. That will continue each year until property tax 2026 when we meet our target mill of 27. What this will do over time is effectively shift the burden from the state funding to local taxpayers, trying to make that more than the first year. For a district like ours, it's already 69%. It ends up in the rate of local share versus state. Some districts have almost 18 mills to go before they get to 27. So this is an implementation that will take between 1 and 18 years for districts to process. So taxpayer impact. An example of adding 1 additional mill for 2021. How much will it cost a residential homeowner? So if that home value is $500,000 and the assessment rate is 7.15%, that assessed value, the value the homeowner will pay tax on is $35,750. This year, the total program tax would equal $815.63. Last year, under the lower mill at $777.88, the difference is $35.75. This is an example, more of a table provided by CDE. It also has the non-residential market value. Non-residential or commercial property is set at 29%, so a much higher ratio than residential. And so as Rob alluded to earlier, and Kenny brought up, where will this money go? The estimate for the current school year, 2021-22, that this would generate $90 million extra dollars in local share. That means the state doesn't have to revive that $90 million. They have that money to put that somewhere. It can be redirected. And part of that this year, they created a new part of the funding formula. ELL students for their own factor, their own additional funding, and part of that funding came from the $90 million. But ultimately, the use of those state funds is going to be at the legislature's decision. And over a year, once you get to fully implemented, it will generate over $200 million of additional state resources we can allocate on this. Okay, so the main takeaways here, mill levy correction is a legislative and legal directive to correct the historical undercollection of property tax. The historical undercollection has resulted in collecting less property taxes locally for districts such as ours that are defavored. It's law dictated by state statute. It's not a local decision to raise property taxes. An interesting thing is before this law was passed, they took the law was written, and they went to the Colorado State Supreme Court and got, I'm going to butcher the word, an interrogatory. And basically a pre-ruling. Hey, if this passes, will you strike it down or will you say it's constitutional? Supreme Court ruled it was constitutional. They wanted to implement it. So that really reduced a lot of risk. I know I had a ton of apprehension. Like, if you pass this on no more and it's ruled unconstitutional, we're going to have to refund a bunch of money with self-generated budget taxes. But we want to authorize any of that pre-approval essentially as constitutional law. Essentially, at the end of the day, we're talking the funds generated through mill levy correction result in more fiscal resources to go out there. Questions on mill levy correction or mill levy equalization?
Clear as mud.
Yeah. All right. This is one of those things that I've been hearing about for a year, and every time I think I got it, it becomes clear as mud. The next webinar article you get to read, it's a better.
No questions? No questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
It helped reading it 10 times to
Yeah.
kind of be ready for the in-person.
Yeah.
explanations.
So is the increase, so this correction, so you broke it down to $35 more a year. Does that include the new levy override dollar? Like is that the 46.462, that includes the total 15%?
Yeah, so this will affect our total program funding. So the majority of our general fund revenue comes through total program funds, which is per pupil amount on the number of funded pupils. That's what that's changing. Our local share of that amount. Mill levy override is in addition to your total program funding. That's another new mill we'll assess this year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Larger.
We've got total program mills, we've got mill levy overrides, we have bond mills, and then what's called an abatement. This year is super small.
So they're gonna see the increase in the mill levy for total program funding and increase in the mill levy override?
Yes, but what they also do, they took advantage of lower interest rates in the spring of 2020 and the summer of 2021. So our mills, because property taxes have gone up and we refinance at lower rates, that mill is dropping by around $600,000 a year. Valuation. I think it's about half.
To your point, Maureen, one of the concerns we have is with the state adjustment, people are going to see more mill levy, coming out of their real estate taxes, and then we're asking them for our mill levy override on top of that. And,
Yeah.
The argument was this is going to make it hard to get the counter argument. The longer we wait, the more frustrated people get over time. It's harder to get to that. Probably a good thing we got out earlier.
Other questions? Thank you. For explaining that.
Yeah.
Silver? Aye. Ramirez? Aye. Deb?
Aye.
Taylor?
Aye.
Forrest?
Aye.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion of board member participation on subcommittees. Surprisingly, we're only 10 minutes behind schedule right now, so Kelsey and I looked earlier at where our participation is listed and we just wanted to have a discussion with everybody here about the subcommittees that we currently have and moving forward. So I'm obviously kind of want to hear from the three of you who are on committees currently, and can you have been assigned some committees as well. About where we are on that and wherever everyone's feeling with the committees they're on and if you want the addition of any other committees.
Do you have a list of?
So we don't have a list anywhere that we could find. All we have is on the agenda Excel sheet listed next to each person's name. There are committees that they're currently on, but we don't have a list of these are committees that we typically have in a year, which is why we wanted to touch base on this so that we can develop that.
Yeah, that was a question I had is, are there other committees out there that we should be on? Then only two really that, so I represent the school district on the BOCES board. They meet every other month throughout the year. And they have a pretty sizable budget, and they also manage the Yonka High School. So we're looking at different ways of interacting with them and partnering with them. So I wouldn't say it takes up a ton of time, but it's important, I guess. I'm interested in staying on that just because of my role in my professional life intersects a lot with the school district work and the college and the BOCES, and so it makes sense, I think, for me right now to stay there. But in another year, I definitely want to pass the baton. And then I'm also have been the past 2 years on the IDB, interest-based bargaining, and then they have subcommittees on that, and I'm on the budget subcommittee. And I also enjoyed that. That is a little bit more time consuming. But so far I've been able to manage it. I think, yeah, it takes a while to understand the budget and everything, but I think I probably need to do a better job of relaying those discussions back to the board. I think between Nathan and I, he probably does a better job than I could anyway. I was originally appointed, I don't know, it wasn't elected, appointed to the Glenwood Springs.
Urban renewal.
Oh, I think like all three of us were at
Yeah.
one point.
I actually went to a meeting and voted one time. I don't think they've had a meeting since. But anyway, so whoever does it has to be appointed to the city. So if that's something that, yeah, I don't want to do that. So that's it for me.
And I was doing the Mountain Voices project, and I did go for most of the 2-hour meetings in the beginning. But that I think that quickly became a space that I just, for me, it didn't feel valuable. I do want to. I agree with Maureen. I think it's a conversation we've had before of wanting to find other spaces where maybe we should be more involved with or be a part of. I don't know what that looks like in regards to partnerships or. I know Jen that works into nonprofits. I don't know if there's like areas of areas of like community spaces where we should be involved or be visible on. Yeah, I definitely also don't want to do
Well, and I think too, like identifying which ones were required to be on versus which ones have a partnership with their school district that makes sense for us to be at the table. Because I think a lot of us are on boards outside of this board, and we're on them as community members. That some have to deal with a city or town, and others have to deal with school or work or whatever it might be. But which ones are we required? I think would be a nice.
I think there are three that there are requirements. One is the BOCES. By definition, BOCES board has to be a board member to be participating in this. So as long as we're in the BOCES, we're obligated to sit board members. The second is IDB because of our district tradition of having some board member or two participate in interest-based bargaining. That's super time intensive. And then the third is the urban renewal authority because that's the way that thing is structured. To my understanding, it's very conventional, frankly, for an elected board member to be a required designee from the organization. Usually, board members send staff members to those companies. But that's the only one like that I'm aware of. And I don't know, maybe Jeff, I'm looking at you because there's so many other of those sort of regulatory environment things, but I think those are all staff who represent the organization. Like you can't think of any others, like law enforcement, and those are all staff.
Okay. And so we've got both of them IDB covered. It seems like we need to appoint.
there's 2 IDDs.
Right. Penny is currently assigned to IDB calendar planning committee.
Yes, and as of now, that has not been to the commitment, but we'll see if that goes on. But I think they're only scheduling maybe 3 or 4 meetings is the hope that gets done. So I know that these aren't on there and they're not obligatory at all, but it seems like 2 other organizations that we could benefit perhaps as a district from having representation would be, one would be if we could find anything with CMC. It seems like it'd be really great if we could have some kind of relationship with them, especially as they're doing more programming, especially as they're doing more educational programming, and we're struggling to find teachers, and we're struggling to find teachers who speak Spanish, and if we could be having some kind of pipeline where our graduating students are going to CMC and then coming back to us to be a great, I think, relationship. So I don't know if that is something that we could look into.
We have so many different projects to work on with them, and you don't have an overarching, like, point, mostly the matching issue, but not always oftentimes. I'm on a monthly meeting with Carrie about,
Uh-huh.
example, and of course, they work a lot with them on teacher ed funds, constantly in conversation with them on potential housing or other partnerships on that. But there isn't like a one point of contact, a relationship between CNC and others.
And it varies with concurrent enrollment, and other RISE grants, like there's a lot of areas. It is an octopus.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's a question I have is, I know Andy used to coordinate all the concurrent enrollment stuff, and with your new role, I don't know if anybody else is taking that on.
Rick,
But that,
concurrent enrollment.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were asking me. But now I'm on concurrent enrollment. I have a quarterly meeting set up with Laura Cartman now.
Okay.
And we've been just moving forward our policies that when we brought to you, which I'll be bringing back. First, more changes after the CD, make some suggestions after our conversation with CNC to help improve access. But
The other thing that makes it complicated is we have our central services, which is Carrie and Matt, and then we have, and Natalie, sorry. And then we have our Warren Court campus, which is Spring Valley and Brentwood, and I have our Aspen and Carmel campus, which is other leadership. So it's complicated. But what were you thinking? Like,
I don't know, I just don't know if CMC has any kind of regular board meetings where they did, and if that would be a seat that would be available for us to sit on.
those are elected members. So I don't know if there's an at-large. Could ask Carrie. That makes sense.
I wonder if just bringing a conversation between all of those campus leaders and the board would be like just a one yearly meeting on like tell us what's our collaboration happening right now with CSC. I mean, because I know that we have programs, but I don't know any of the programs, and I know you guys know the programs. But I definitely would love to know like what that's happening between CMC and our school district. What are we doing to be partnering and collaborating with programming?
Well, and sometimes I hear about things after the fact too, and I'm like, I'm on board, and I didn't even know that.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if one of them, one of them that we could include in this participation is the equity leadership. There is in existence right now between CMC, the school district, and Mountain Valley Settlement to provide more. The equity leadership is designed to look at how we have more equitable access to leaders within these three organizations. And that could be listed as one of our committees that we participate in. I have been in the dual role from CMC and also the school district and management. Like we've all been on these that I think would be a really valuable thing to then routinely share with other board members and to the community, like what's been happening with that. And that's a really good one.
Natalie, in equity of leadership.
Yeah, the equity leadership committee. What are we calling ourselves?
I think that's about right. And you can just like send it to the CMC, RSSD, and Valley Settlement.
I think one of the great but challenging aspects of CMC is that a lot of the way that CMC does business is through grants. And so they proactively pursue these wonderful funding opportunities. And we're typically game to write a letter of support and try to be a partner with that. And then the funding comes in, often in ways that are beneficial to our staff, to our students. But we at a district level sort of lack a sole point person who can manage those grants and interface with the staff and handle the financing. And it's just a lot. And so I used to take on a lot of that in my old role. I still carry a good deal of that. I'm sure that helps over some of that now. And they're really hard to say no to because you almost never say no to grant opportunities. But they feel sort of disconnected and dispersed. And I don't know that there's a great fit person in either organization to manage the entirety of that. So I almost think that would be difficult for us to figure out all the different ways that we partner with communities that are sustainable.
Well, and I think to Kenny's point, like, I think that's kind of the unfortunate cycle we're in is like, you know, we have CMC so close and across our whole district, and yet it feels like we're not doing enough sometimes to be partnering with them, to be like, you know, creating our own homegrown educators here. And so I don't know what the solution to that is. I would assume that having a conversation with leadership, but, you know, I understand that their leadership is also so huge. So I don't, you know, I don't know if you guys have insight because you guys work there, but I definitely would love to like come to a place that, you know, that we at least know what students could be doing at CMC. You know, like our students, like what could they be benefiting from? What programs do they have that we should be aware of so that we're telling families like, hey, did you know that CMC has X, Y, and Z available for, you know, it's like some of that information, like I honestly don't know unless
Well, we do that a lot at the 3 high schools with the counselors, and we have reps in the high schools. Could we do a better job? Yes. But in light of this conversation, we can move on. I work for the 2 vice presidents of the 2 campuses, so I can ask both of them like how we want to move forward and maybe coordinate a little bit better all these different things that we're doing.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, it could be, you know, the work session topic or probably we bring someone in to explain it a little better so that we have a better understanding of stuff that was.
So there's also lots of other organizations in the valley that are, I'm going to say competing, but trying to initiate things, and it's like let's all work together instead of, you know, doing the same thing. So trying to bring all of them together, like BOCES, Youth Entity, like there's a lot of different organizations that offer programming, and we don't even, I don't know what they all are.
So yeah, for the purposes of subcommittees in this conversation, it doesn't sound like there's a easily identifiable CMC subcommittee that you can put on. So
One other question I'd like to add to that, maybe you can ask that Maureen, or I don't know. I know CMC does a lot more with vocational ed and a lot of districts outside of what we do in our district, and I know that's something that CMC offers, and so I wonder if there's anything that we can do also, or if we can move towards getting some kind of vocational part to that, like mechanics. I know, like,
I can speak a little to that.
What's that?
I can speak a little to that. So the term that's now being used for vocational is career and technical education. CTE has become an acronym, so just introducing an acronym to make it less clear what I'm talking about. We feel like CTE has been a back burner question for a number of years, and we need to move it to at least the burner. I don't know which burner, but so Ben Bonfalk, who is on the instructional team, has a little bit of time that he's dedicated to starting to pull together resources so that we can at least see. There are a lot of community partners. The biggest one is obviously the community college, Powder Mountain College. So he's more in this gathering, in this sort of pre-understanding phase right now. What I expect we will do this summer is bring to you as a board an exploratory question around CTE. How can we expand and formalize options district-wide? Because it is mostly left to sort of being opportunistic between the schools and CMC and other partners that come our way. There's CareerWise, which is a statewide nonprofit that knocks on our door. I just talked to somebody from the Gates Family Foundation who's interested in some CTE stuff in a particular field. So we think it's time for us to get this organized. And I think that'll be a project that we launch this spring, summer, that will start next year. And you can, you know, I guess that's pretty much, I think I'm confident in saying that that's something that will have to be on the, like an exploratory process for next year. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's our game plan. We're also very cognizant of the fact that we have a staff that's, you know, overwhelmed by the expectations that we already have them to teach, and that we need partners who can deliver on those things. And, you know, trying to hire a whole bunch of staff to teach, you know, name the wide breadth of that. It's why we believe that our partnership with CMC is so critical And we, alluded to the fact, but not to be honest, like BOCES kind of approached us and they launched what they thought is their plan. And so we're working with them as well, but I think we have a preferred path there that we need to investigate.
And Katie, I just had one more to add. I think some kind of relationship maybe with the now on the board would be another great partnership for us to do. He represents a large portion of our community where we could be bringing parents in that we're need to bring tax parents into our community.
Can you really settle that?
Valley South.
So it seems like we're gonna need more time for this conversation if we're gonna add additional partnerships. I feel like we're just wrapping this up. If we have these three that we need to be on, it seems like we need to appoint some members to urban renewal authority. That one is mandated. Honey, I don't know how you feel about it, but we're the new kids on the block, so it seems like this might fall on us. Since no one else is jumping to the take this on.
Well, John, Natalie,
I mean, I don't mind staying on it. Like, I was gonna say, I could
Oh,
stay
okay.
on it. I don't mind.
If you're the one that didn't say you don't want on it.
Well, I didn't know if I was like voted off the island on it, because I went to one, you went to one, I think maybe you went to one. It wasn't very clear who,
Jeff, are you involved in that, or are you copied on the urban renewal
right? We voted on it.
conversation?
Yeah, I went.
Okay, they just wanted a board member and then they went silent.
Oh, yeah, that's the last I heard too.
Okay,
So
we
we're
don't know
gonna
anymore
try
on
to
our,
have one member, multiple members?
one board member.
We one.
Yes, I thought it was
So do you want to stay? And that
Yeah,
will
so
handle Okay.
I don't mind staying
So
on
I
it.
make
Because yours is much more commitment of BOCES than IBB. I feel like the urban renewal authority hasn't been.
So
I'm really not
here's
gonna
what I
work. I have
feel
no
obligated
idea.
to say as staff support. If you can forward me the most recent communication you had from them,
Yep.
I'd like to reach out and say, what's the deal? Because it's really confusing to me. And when they first said you need to appoint a board member, I was like, that seems inappropriate. But let me see if it's even still active and what the expectations and what's the
Actually, can we make a motion just to approve Natalie just in case they are active, just so that we
I think the board should appoint an active person, and then if we just say
She's
that.
already active, so
Okay,
I don't
so
think we need
there
to
we
take
go.
any official action.
All right, so Natalie, I just feel badly because you're in limbo on that, and I don't like how they set it up and then they didn't follow through.
Okay, so I suggest at this point we move on. We're pretty far down. I feel like this is a test on my ability to keep this to task, and it failed last point. But I think we should move on to the next agenda item, which is some policy items. I've got a couple to review here. Want to make the motion or?
Update on policy DKC on expense authorization reimbursement, first of two readings, and should I do both? New policy, DBJC on background checks on second and third reading.
I'm also added,
Hold on, so just, let me check it.
I second that.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, there's also, we don't need board action to resolve ELC, we use the exhibit, but it sounds like we actually have, so,
Yeah, that's the motion.
yeah, so it's basically, yeah, the exhibit that we had on the authorization of
Okay, I amend my motion to also include repeal DLC dash policy DLC dash. Wait, I gotta vote second, right?
I second. You're three up here. And then
It is pretty straightforward, but I'm happy to take care of the discussion that makes sense for me.
Any question on?
Why don't we start with the DKCE, or DKC, sorry.
Yeah.
If anybody has questions on policy DKC.
Kenny and I both put in the comments, just a clarification. It mentioned, because Kenny had mentioned, do we really need, it shall not exceed the IRS limit? And I think the reason we had that is that it's the IRS limit is higher than the OSC. And I don't know if that's what our board and superintendent had approved, but the rate approval for Colorado's mileage reimbursement is lower than with the IRS. So I don't know which one we use.
I wasn't so much saying one or the other, I was just saying the part where the superintendent can decide a different amount. I thought that was arbitrary versus saying just like we have some set amount versus saying I can just decide to do this.
No objections from me.
You don't know where that mileage reimbursement?
Yeah, I actually, my life is better if I don't, because
Okay, so I'm here, are you suggesting that we just take out, the part about the superintendent's salary mileage reimbursement?
Just that one sentence,
Not
yeah.
exceed blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then do we need to include what it is based on, so that it's very clear that it's the Colorado?
Well, I guess that would be a clarifying question for you guys. Are we using the Colorado rate or the national IRS rate?
Yeah, that's true. IRS.
IRS.
I'm gonna leave that out there.
So then, yeah.
Any other questions? for Lisa?
Well, I guess there was when travel costs not covered by the district. So, we just went to CASB and I questioned like this expense for spouse, significant other, guests. I took my family with me, so we all were in the room. And I just wanted to clarify, like, do we need to put something in there that says,
Additional expenses.
I mean, I don't know if other teachers travel with their families.
no, I think what
travel
you're
with my
saying is
family.
what I would do too. If my wife goes with me on a trip and she stays in the room, that's good. But for meals, don't come out of, I don't pay for the meals out of the district,
Right.
for example. So I
Yeah.
think that's very reasonable that we, yeah, it's not like you're not allowed to have an ancillary benefit of bringing a spouse.
And just like add in the word additional.
Yeah.
Additional,
Additional expense to it.
yeah. I'm just reinforcing, I agree with you, that seems
That's a
like
good add.
appropriate.
Any other comments here?
Oh, wait, there was one thing. So we were in Colorado Springs, so the IRS limits were different. Do you want to include that, like, depending on the location of, because somebody might go on here and just assume they're Colorado limits instead of like the city. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. We had to use.
When you break it down from, when you hit the IRS link and you break it down, they say, this is how much you're allowed in this city, and this is how much you're allowed in this city.
But if you use the IRS one, then you use that.
Then it has that already.
Yeah,
so I don't
it
think
already
we need-
says
I agree, I don't think we need to say anything.
Yeah.
Assuming as long as we're saying we're using that, then that implies that you're gonna input where you are, what location.
Yeah, but my thing is I just don't know that everybody knows to input the location. Like, our conference was in Colorado Springs, not, like, our district is here, so our rate here is different than Colorado Springs. At the same month, it's different. So I just wanted to make sure that we don't want to clarify this on the policy, so that way we're not,
So-
having a.
I hate the wordsmith on the fly, but if I just put after Internal Revenue Service, which vary by location and time of year, would that get to what?
Location, I think, only maybe.
No, it's kind of
Time
weird.
of
Oh,
year,
time
I
of
mean,
year also.
yeah. That's what you're getting at, so that nobody like makes a noose and,
Yeah.
tries to get reimbursed.
Depending on where you're traveling, the month is different for some. make another
Um,
motion?
Well, do we want to review all these and just look at them all together? Or do you want to act on each one independently?
No, well, I was just gonna do them all together. So I make a motion to approve the amendment to policy KDC. Oh, DKC. Something right. To approve policy KDC with amendment.
Right, okay. A second.
Okay, Schoenberg? Aye. Ramirez?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
Tyler?
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And thank you.
You have to repeal.
And does the board want to move, I guess, like, allow the chapter, all of them, if you want to move it to the consent agenda first? Separate.
I think the consent agenda will be fine. Because we're just approving it with everything else.
There was a motion to also repeal that other one, and they just changed the motion, they didn't include that, because the other one's not repealed. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to repeal DLC-E.
I second.
Aye.
Okay, Schoenberg? Aye. Ramirez?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
Tyler?
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move on to GBJC. Where do you get the motion to? Skip. Any comments on this one? Is there any questions or clarifying questions on this?
So, the motion, I motion to approve GBJC.
I second.
Call for a vote.
Schoenberg?
Aye.
Ramirez?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
Tyler?
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Okay, we just got a couple more things on the agenda. Reports and comments, so superintendent and administrator reports.
Nothing in addition to that from me.
And then work.
Actually,
Oh.
I just wanted to get into the minutes, the work session, since the public typically doesn't show up for that, so I thought I would just read into the minutes what we covered during the work session during our review of the CLD department cuts. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So today we worked with the board on the CLDE department, which is culturally and linguistically diverse education department. We talked to the board about who are the students who makes up that population. We looked carefully at the different program models that we have across the district, trying to gain deeper understanding about what happens as far as dual literacy or English literacy. We looked at common components of high quality programming. I think we pointed out we have a pretty extensive review tool that we use with all buildings on a yearly basis to ensure that we have quality programming in all the schools. And then, unfortunately, did have some time for some nice to knows, but not enough time for discussion. So, looking forward to the board having the opportunity to follow up with Ms. Fairbanks.
Thank you. The only other thing that Kelsey and I had talked about noting here is we extended the time a little bit for public comment this evening just to accommodate the 2 additional people that had signed up. We had 8 total. There's a little bit of a discrepancy between the 20 minutes and the 45 minutes that were allotted. So tonight we exceeded our 20 minutes, and going forward, if we get on the board, we want to continue at 20 or go forward to 45. I don't think it needs to be made now, but consider for as a public.
Can we just go between 20 and 45 and extend it if needed, and but we'll shoot for 20 most nights? I
So
don't,
we might want to bring forward that policy too to make that adjustment because it is not noted in our policy, so therefore, if we want to be in compliance with policy, we should make sure that we update that.
Yeah.
If I could recommend, I feel like there's been a lack of clarity that does not serve us well. And so maybe because we have a different board, it's in your numbers, you all maybe just write it out for a couple of meetings and see how it feels, and then make a change when you have more of an understanding of what you'd like to see that one moving forward. Having some sort of, willy-nilly shifts back and forth probably wouldn't serve the board so much, but I think we owe the public clarity, and I think we've been trying to find the balance between efficiency and giving full voice to people, and I don't know where to balance.
So we could say not to exceed 45 minutes or something like that.
Like I said, I don't expect them to make a decision tonight. I think that we did make a conscious decision. So I just didn't take it a little bit.
I think we could also err on the lower side of time and put a caveat that can be extended upon agreement of the board and up to 45 minutes, but so it's cut at 20 minutes, but then if we as a group decide we would like to continue, then we do.
Yeah, we revisit this
Sure.
maybe in the month of January and we'll have and talk about it over. So next is our appreciation. We have,
Can we do the burger, please?
oh yeah, go for it. Yeah, sorry.
So Penny and I went to CASB. There were a lot of people. It was amazing to see everybody just ready to be out and like talking about education, and they had some really great presenters. I think there was a lot of great quality breakout sessions that we both would meet after and have a conversation on, that I think during the work session would be great for all of us to talk about and share some of that information. I do have my workbook, and Libby did give us workbooks, so if anybody wants to see that. One of the breakout sessions that I went to was student engagement, and it was really, really powerful. It was really giving students the opportunity to talk with board members directly on their experience in the school that they go to, and I think it would be really great for us to have some of these conversations on what our board goals are moving forward and what student engagement looks like in our school district with the board. And yeah, it grabbed a lot of facilitators' numbers. I think, it was really nice to see so many more people out there. Kenny, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
I think it was very informative, and it gave a lot of information, and I was able to get caught up to speed a little bit. Most lasting impression I had is it was really great information that would have been better served for me to have people to talk about it at the time. And as the time goes on, it sort of loses its efficacy a little bit because you're not in the moment. And so for me, it would have been a much better experience if the five of us had been there as a group together, because then we heard something and we can engage in that conversation and talk, and I think it would have created an environment of deeper learning.
So let's see if they have. I'm my friend's here, so we don't know if we'll see it next year. But yeah, and then and then the other thing was just, I don't know if you want to mention us meeting or trying to meet in January.
Yeah.
Okay.
About it. General board retreat, running the meetings and discussions about the development, things like that. Any other board reports? We'll move on to appreciation. We have one special appreciation tonight. So I'll start with that. And we want to thank you for serving as president and guiding the board and the district through COVID and all of your hard work. It's not done and being appreciated. So thank you for that. Thank you for.
I will do my best to keep it alive. This poor soul. It's looking at me like, oh no, don't send me home with her. I will do my best. Thank you.
Well, in all seriousness, thank you, because it was no easy task to be at the helm during that time, and we appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I have two. One is, I want to appreciate Nathan. Just getting us here tonight with the mill levy, the mechanics and the pencil work with the mill levy, enormous task. And I feel feel really good having his leadership as our district chief financial officer. Thanks for that, and thanks for continually steering us, keeping us on a sound fiscal course. And I also just want to appreciate the Two Rivers community and how they showed up tonight. They showed up in numbers, they showed up with grace, they showed up with enthusiasm, and it was a really great reminder of how positive board attendance, board participation can be in the showing of support. It was so constructive and so well pulled off. And it was delightful to hear from some of our students too, as well, who are certainly, it's just great to see some kids, having voice and participating with others.
And they all knew how to wear masks.
That was noted.
Yeah, I wanted to appreciate Jamie too. It was a great presentation, but he took time out of his busy day. And, running a school is very time demanding. And he met with each and every one of us and gave a tour of the school. And just, it was, and again, I remember from 2 years ago, it was the same thing. There was a huge turnout and tons of support. So the fact that they all showed up again tonight, last night and tonight. I heard there was a good turnout last night.
About 40, I think.
I just want to appreciate Amy for taking time out of her workload to, I think, prepare a good opportunity for you guys to get a peek into the scope of the CLDE world. And I always appreciate her willingness to get up there and present like she was teaching a class and modeling these are the key components of a class we expect any good teacher to do. So thank you to Amy for taking time to do that.
I would appreciate saying about that. I'm like a broken record this year with crisis, but he's done incredible work to help our guest teacher coordinator Lisa really revamp the sub process, and they've kicked off some new in-person events to get guest teachers enrolled. We're paying for them to get their licenses and their fingerprints right now. We're extending partnerships with CNC and bringing our seal on site to other organizations, and it's really working, which feels awesome when you do new things and you get an immediate.
I appreciate Mount Family as a partner. I went into the middle school this week and got my booster. And I just really appreciated having the access as a parent of a middle schooler, but also as a community member to be able to go in and just grab my flu shot. Or not my flu shot, I'm sorry, my booster. So I really appreciated their willingness to be in our schools and to be working with us on that.
I had a similar appreciation for Mountain Family Jasmine for both their coordination of those clinics and just for those reasons exactly. I did the same thing. I know most people got my booster there. And we also last week had kind of a mid-year check-in on the school-based health centers, which are, having a challenging start. I know we're a year and a half into the partnership with Mountain Family, but our staffing crises are similar with having healthcare. And I'm just really grateful for the collaboration and the partnership where we can really speak honestly and transparently about challenges and hold each other accountable. It's been really a good rumbling together around shared goals around access. And with that appreciation also comes a huge appreciation for our school leaders, all of whom, every single school that had a school-based health center showed up at that meeting and leaned in really hard to the work. And it just is a testament to the commitment that this district has from a board level to a school leader level to teachers to partners to increasing access to services in our rural community and really understanding the role of our schools as community centers and hubs and increasing access and just from both sides the commitment of our school leaders.
I'd like to appreciate the executive team for their patience as I'm trying to get caught up to speed and not sure who I'm supposed to talk to at the right time or which person I'm supposed to be contacting for something. So thank you for that time as we try to figure out where and who we should be talking to, and also for the current board members for the rules and protocols of how that all goes. And I think that'll take time. Katie, I thought you did a great job as the first go with this. So thank you.
appreciate, a couple of folks on the tech team, who've been working to bring the meetings online for a few months now. And it sounds like we had some technical difficulties tonight, but Mike and Alan were in here for a couple hours today, trying to work through today's challenges, even though, it worked last time, it worked on a different computer. I know they deal with that in our classrooms all the time, but I just so appreciated them taking time today to try to get it up and running, and for everyone who's listening and experienced it being a little bit wonky, appreciate you still tuning in and hanging in there.
I wanted to appreciate Peter Mueller, who's the principal at Salt High School, who returned last week after just recovering from an accident. And it was great. Two things. It was great to see him Tuesday morning in the hallway talking to kids, and it was great calling him yesterday just to talk through some of the normal day-to-day stuff that we do. So I know that sentiment is certainly shared too by the greater community. It's nice having that.
I would appreciate Alan Day back on the tech team. The first round of ESSER funds that came out in March 2020, 19 years ago now.
Part of that, and it's the only one that has this provision to share with non-public schools. We've been trying to think of Chromebooks for St. Stephen's School, and Alan finally today was able to hand those off after like over a year of orders sent back and just orders flat out lost. And back orders for Chromebooks were so hard to get, so it was really helpful just monitoring that.
I want to give a thanks to Angie when I saw that personnel list, and I was like looking at all those guest teachers. I stood up and I was like so excited. So thank you for all the hard work that you and your team have been doing. That was a really great list to look at, and it's a reflection of the hard work to get that really challenging position as much as we can filled. So thank you.
So if there's no further business, and there's no objection, the meeting will be adjourned at 8:12 p.m.
Yeah. Well, you did it. The main front door?
I think so.
I'm still here till 12.
8 a.m.